Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Giribharadhari. Gopijana Vallabha Giribharadhari. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Manachari. Jamuna Tira Manachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. 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 Gopijana Vallabha Giribharadhari. Gopijana Vallabha Giribharadhari. Gopijana Vallabha Giribharadhari. Gopijana Vallabha Giribharadhari. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Damuna Tira Manachari. Damuna Tira Manachari. Jamuna Tira Manachari. Jamuna Tira Manachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Giribharadhari Gopijana Vallabha Giribharadhari Gopijana Vallabha Giribharadhari Gopijana Vallabha Giribharadhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Janati Ravana Chari Jamunati Ravana Chari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Jaya Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Shri Radhe Jaya, Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Shri Radhe Jaya, Nitya Sachinandana, Gaura Hare Jaya, Nitya Sachinandana, Gaura Hare. Jaya Pancha Tattva Jaya, Pancha Tattva Jaya, Pancha Tattva Jaya, Pancha Tattva. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Itai Gaura Hari Bol, Itai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Tothara Satashishi Manas Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Brenzagaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Ki. Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhana Ki. Vrindavan Dham Ki. Mayapur Dham Ki, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki, Jamuna Maya Ki, Ganga Maya Ki, Tulsi Devi Ki, Bhakti Devi Ki, Samaveda Bhaktarinda Ki, Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki, Prihat Madanga Transcendental Book Distribution Ki, ISKCON Ireland Ki, Gaur Premanande, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Hare Krishna, good morning everybody. So we're going to continue on with our reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And we're doing text 10 and text 11 this morning. And it is the title as Conversation between Narada and Vyasadeva. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. A reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, text, Chapter 6, texts 10 and 11. Tada tad aham ishasya. Tada tad aham ishasya. Bhaktanam sham apikshata. Bhaktanam sham apikshata. Anugraham mamam yamana. Anugraham manyamana. Patishtam tisham uttaram. Patishtam tisham uttaram. Tada tad aham ishasya. Tada tad aham ishasya. Bhaktanam sham abhipshata. Bhaktanam sham abhipshata. Anugraham manyamana. Anugraham manyamana. Patishtam disham uttaram. Patishtam disham uttaram. Tada tad aham ishasya. Tada tad aham ishasya. Bhaktanam sham abhipshata. Bhaktanam sham abhipshata. Anugraham manasya manyamana. Anugraham manyamana. Patishtam disham uttaram. Patishtam disham uttaram. Tada. At that time. Tat. That. Aham. I. Ishasya. Of the Lord. Bhaktanam. Of the devotees. Sham. Mercy. Abhipshata. Abhipsata. Desiring. Anugraham. Special benediction. Manyamana. Thinking in that way. Patishtam. Departed. Disham uttaram. In the northern direction. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. I took this as the special mercy of the Lord, who always desires benediction for His devotees. And so thinking, I started for the north. Purport. Confidential devotees of the Lord see in every step a benedictory direction of the Lord. What is considered to be an odd or difficult moment in the mundane sense is accepted as special mercy of the Lord. Mundane prosperity is a kind of material fever, and by the grace of the Lord, the temperature of this material fever is gradually diminished, and spiritual health is obtained step by step. Mundane people misunderstand it. And so text 11. Spitanjana padam statra puragrama vajakaran ketakar vatavatischa vananyupavananicha. Translation. After my departure, I passed through many flourishing metropolises, towns, villages, animal farms, mines, agricultural lands, valleys, flower gardens, nursery gardens, and natural forests. Purport. Man's activities in agriculture, mining, farming, industries, gardening, etc., were all on the same scale as they are now, even previous to the present creation. And the same activities will remain as they are, even in the next creation. After many hundreds of millions of years, one creation is started by the law of nature, and the history of the universe repeats itself practically in the same way. The mundane wranglers waste time with archaeological excavations without searching into the vital necessities of life. After getting an impetus in spiritual life, Sri Narada Muni, even though a mere child, did not waste time for a single moment with economic development, although he passed towns and villages, mines and industries. He continually went on to progressive spiritual emancipation. Srimad Bhagavatam is a repetition of history which happened some hundreds of millions of years ago. As it is said herein, Only the most important factors of history are picked up to be recorded in this transcendental literature. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvashesha Sunifani Paschitari. So this two momentous verses here. The first one, I took this as the special mercy of the Lord, who always desires benediction for his devotees, and so thinking, I started for the north. So here we have the the youthful Narada before he became Narada in his next life, and he's got the impetus. He wants to go and seek out spiritual life. His mum is after dying. He's only 5 years old, and she was bitten by a snake as she was out going to milk the cows at night time. And so he was left on his own. And so now what he wants to do, he just wants to go. He sees it as providence. What an amazing insight for someone so young. But it is Narada, and he was schooled by the sages who stopped by at where his mother lived, and they stopped for 4 months. So it looks like we might be getting our little. Anyway, we've got nearly a month of it, but we could be getting our 4-month break because of the monsoon season. Well, not exactly, but so basically, it looks like what they did at that time is they really stopped and studied. Which of course is so important in spiritual life, and so it's kind of an interesting time that we have now. This time to actually to study, and I thought about the pastimes of Krishna because this is basically these two or three chapters are explaining how Vyasadeva. He divided the Vedas into 4 so that it could be understood by all different types of men. But even at the end of it, though, he didn't feel very satisfied. And he didn't feel satisfied basically because Narada explained to him that he didn't explain about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He explained about all different processes of reaching the Supreme, but he didn't emphasize the glories of the Lord. And this is Narada's real speciality. So I mentioned this pastime in a recent talk actually, but it's a very interesting pastime of when Krishna was in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj. And he had just he was just pulling along. He was tied to this mortar, but he started to pull it along as he started to crawl. And Krishna, of course, is very powerful. So therefore, when he's pulling along, when he's crawling, nothing's going to stop a piece of mortar or grinding stone or whatever it was. Or sorry, it was a kind of a thing that he was tied to anyway. But he was pulling this along, and suddenly he pulled it in between these two big, huge Arjuna trees, which are incredibly huge, powerful trees. And suddenly he pulled in between the two trees, and the two trees came crashing down. And out of those trees came 2 amazing personalities who were demigods. And we know them to be Nalakuvar, Manigriva and Nalakuvar. And they were the sons of Kuvera. They were very powerful demigods. They had incredible wealth because they were the son of Kuvera, and they were bathing in some beautiful ponds or pools, probably in the mountains, and they were surrounded by beautiful ladies, beautiful nymphs, very, very, how would you call it? A very powerful scene. And Narada just walked by. Now the ladies, they understood, oh my God, here comes a great sage. We will cover ourselves up so that he doesn't see us. So they had a sense of, well, decorum. Now, I mean, in the heavenly planets, you know, this is probably a normal situation, but the two demigods were intoxicated as well, so they weren't even aware that Narada was passing. So it was just normal fare for them there. But Narada took mercy on them, and so what he did was he actually cursed them to become trees for 100 years. But it wasn't just 100 normal years, it was 100 years of the demigods, which turned out to be something in the region of 4 million years. And so they were to take birth as trees. But not only that, is that while they were in the bodies of trees, they were to remain conscious. So while they were conscious in the bodies of trees, they felt very, very uncomfortable, as we can imagine. Because we know in our own situation, we're kind of on lockdown kind of thing, you know, we're not supposed to move out so much. So we find that kind of uncomfortable or difficult. But can you imagine being in their situation? They were in these trees for all this time. But very fortunately, they took birth in Nanda Maharaj's courtyard. So they were witnessing all different pastimes of Krishna. So they became very, very enlivened in that sense. They could see all these things going on, because they were still conscious. So but until that time, and when Krishna dragged I don't know what it is. I'll have to check that up later. But he dragged it. He pulled down the two trees, and the demigods came out, and so immediately they started to pay their obeisances. Now, all the little kids that were playing around the area with Krishna, they thought, oh, look those demigods, look what's happening, but no one else could see it. Only Krishna and those little kids could see what was happening. The different family members, the grown-ups, they actually couldn't see, but Krishna started to talk to these demigods. Basically, and what he said was very, very interesting. Krishna says, normally, I don't talk to people like your good selves, because you're so much involved and so much engrossed in sense gratification that I don't really spend the time with you. But because the great sage Narada has said that to be there when you actually come out of this curse, that's why I'm actually giving you my audience and giving you my personal presence. Because normally people in that situation, they can't see Krishna because they're covered over with material desires. But because of the benediction by Narada, Krishna felt obliged to Narada to fulfill his benediction. And Krishna also then made this point that Narada is so merciful that he doesn't even stay in my association. What does he do? He goes around the whole world, the whole three worlds, and starts and tells people about me. He preaches. He gives all his energy to tell people about me so that he will bring people back. He says, so I am indebted to somebody like that. So we can see how Narada is such a powerful personality. And so he speaks that we should hear about Krishna's pastimes. And this is what Narada is coming and he's saying very clearly to the two demigods. And he says to Vyasadeva that the mistake that you made was that you didn't explain about the pastimes of Krishna, because they are the only thing which will give peace to the living entities in this world. A subplot in that situation as well, of course, is that the two demigods, they were very proud. So just with an instant, Krishna was able to reduce them very, very, very significantly. So we can see even in our own situation today, Krishna can reduce a very proud civilization with a tiny little virus. Suddenly the whole civilization is brought to a close. I mean, it kind of reminds me of that pastime of Krishna using his little finger, the little finger of his left hand, in which he lifted Govardhan Hill, not his right hand, but his left hand. So just to diminish the pride of Indra. So Krishna is like that. So basically, and then Krishna gave his association to all the devotees underneath the hill, and all the devotees had a very special time with Krishna because they were able to concentrate on Krishna. So likewise, Krishna is holding up the hill for us at the moment. So he's giving us plenty of time to think about his pastimes, so that we become more attached to Krishna. We can more develop this attachment for Krishna. So on Sunday then as well, I was giving a talk from Bhagavad Gita in the 6th chapter, and a verse came to where Arjuna is saying how it's very, very difficult to control the mind. Chanchalam himana Krishna pamati balavadridham tasyaham nigraham manye vayor eva saduskaram. He said, for the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna. And to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind. Vayor eva saduskaram. More difficult than controlling the wind. But Krishna then gives the process by which we can control the mind. He said, Shri Bhagavan Vacha Asankshayam Mahabaho Manur Dunirgaham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kanteya Vairagena Chikriyate. And he says, Lord Sri Krishna said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind. But it is possible by suitable practice and detachment. And that's also translated by constant practice and detachment. So, and then he says, for one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. But he whose mind is controlled and who strives by appropriate means is assured of success. That is my opinion. So Krishna's opinion, that's pretty important. You know, Krishna is, when he says something and when he opines on something, we should take it to heart. So the two things that really strike me there is by suitable practice and detachment. So it is possible to control the mind. And by appropriate means, and one is assured of success. So Krishna is giving us the success. So Srila Prabhupada is giving us the success by chanting Hare Krishna. He's given us this incredible method. And if we didn't have time before to chant Hare Krishna, we were sneaking in a few rounds here and there at different times. No, now's the time to increase on the chanting. If you have extra time, increase on hearing and chanting, obviously, but increase on the chanting because there's so much bliss in the chanting. Yoginam api sarvesham madgatan antaratmana Shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yuktatamo mataha. Shraddhavan, in full faith, of all yogis, the one who with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service unto me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. So Srila Prabhupada, he gave us this process of chanting Hare Krishna and of hearing. And this is the appropriate mean in which we can actually deal with the obstinate mind. The mind is very strong, obstinate, turbulent, and to subdue it is more difficult than controlling the wind. So now's the time to put it into practice, to chant Hare Krishna. And I also gave this. I'll just read a little bit from Sri Ram Maharaj explaining about this, how important it is to chant and to chant more. Often devotees ask what they can do to change or improve their habits in chanting. One very powerful thing to do is to take a day off and dedicate your time to chanting. Chant 64 rounds, or 108, or 192. If you do that, it will be an experience both in seeing how much the mind wanders and what it means to chant. It will give you a connection to the holy name, a strength and insight into the wonder, potency, and beauty of chanting and hearing the holy name. So do that. If, as a consequence of reading this, you realize you've been neglecting chanting, then simply do it. Get up at midnight and chant the whole day, midnight to midnight. Have that determination. It will change your life. You will get an experience that will give you strength, and Tesham Satata Yuktanam. Krishna will give you the intelligence to improve and correct any defects that are there. And if you are doing it perfectly, then he will show you how to do it even more perfectly. Hare Krishna. That's from the Chant More. It's collected writings of Sri Radha in the purport, Srila Prabhupada of verse 35, where Krishna says, it is possible, is undoubtedly very difficult to control, but it is possible. Srila Prabhupada says that the first and foremost of such devotional engagements is hearing about Krishna. This is a very powerful transcendental method for purging the mind of all misgivings. And then this is a very crunch line now we hear. The more one hears about Krishna, the more one becomes enlightened and detached from everything that draws the mind away from Krishna. So this line is very important. The more one hears about Krishna, the more one becomes enlightened and detached from everything that draws the mind away from Krishna. I don't know if anyone ever experienced this, but I often find when I'm reading, especially in these last few days, you get a real taste for just hearing more. I want to hear this talk. I want to hear this talk. I go on to Iskandar's Archery. I go on to Dandavats. I go on to Mayapur TV. Start listening to different devotees speaking, and you're not interested in mundane news. It really dwindles. It gets very, very tiny. You start to hear more and more about Krishna, and you hear about the devotees speaking about Krishna, and that's so powerful. And so basically, we need this time to meditate about Krishna's pastimes, because if we don't, we get distracted by everything under the sun. There's so many things to do in the daily affairs, so many difficulties that we have to deal with, so many bills coming in, so many demands from our workplace, so many things that can distract us in the temple. So maybe some things get on our annoy us about some person does something or whatever. There's so many things that you can let your mind get struck into. But no, if we take the time to hear Krishna's pastimes, and if we chant Hare Krishna, we'll rise above those things. We won't we just won't be distracted from the main important business in life. And that's very important there in Govindadweep. Govindadweep is such a jewel in this world where Radha Krishna has appeared. Shri Radha Govinda. They have... especially in this kind of, the more west you go, it's said that the more fallen one becomes. So we're in the very west of Europe, the furthest most point to the west. But nearly at the almost western peak, Shri Radha Govinda have appeared. So it's like our Vrindavan. We have Vrindavan in Ireland. I was even thinking that if you look at the Vrindavan placed in the map of India, it's kind of like the northwest of India. So Govindadweep is kind of like northwest as well. So it's like our Vrindavan. So it is our duty to try to create these pastimes and to create interest in these pastimes to the people that we're preaching to in Ireland. I mean, there's so many places in the world one can go. There's absolutely limitless places, and to preach. But if we have a Prabhupada Desh, which is something that Prabhupada really wanted. He wanted preaching in each particular place. And then, we should just settle down and, we don't need to wander anywhere. We can just preach where we are. There's no need to wander everywhere, and check this out and check that out and wonder, is it like this? Or maybe better here, is a better place here. That's actually the mind, really, I want to go here, I want to go there, I want to do this, I want to do that. That's a typical example of the mind. There's no need to go anywhere. Prabhupada has gone everywhere, and he sent his different disciples everywhere. Okay, I'm not saying that it is for everybody, but still, The majority of people, they don't need to go anywhere. They just need to stick where they are and preach where they are, and make the place as much of Vrindavan as possible. So Govinda Dweep is our Vrindavan in Ireland, and we've been given an amazing opportunity to develop it. Like you see, Rupa Goswami was Lord Chaitanya's, Rupa was the 6 Goswamis. They were all sent by Lord Chaitanya to go to Vrindavan to discover the pastimes of Krishna. That was the instruction by Lord Chaitanya. They were the greatest writers that were there. They were disciplic succession. What did they do? They developed the pastime places of Krishna. So that's what Govinda Dweep is doing. My mantra, this was our plan from, I don't know, I can't remember, the mid-80s, late 80s, is to set up pastime places there. And we have our own Nandagram, who's painted such amazing, beautiful pictures all around the pastime places. We were, as we know, we were inviting Dinabandhu Prabhu, the Brijbasi, to come here and to speak about the pastimes. And then we also seen Shiva Ramaraj. That's what he did in Hungary. Created all these pastime places. In fact, not only that, but he wrote about all the pastimes of Krishna there in those amazing 8 books and other books as well, and still doing that. So why? So that's what Krishna is saying. That's what Prabhupada is saying. We should meditate on the pastimes of Krishna, because that is what will keep our mind absorbed. If not, our mind needs pleasure. We're pleasure seeking. We'll try to find pleasure in other places. So in Krishna consciousness, we have to create, they're already there, but we have to become attached to Krishna's pastimes and become detached to the things which take the mind away from Krishna. So the goal in Govinda Dweep would be to make it into a most beautiful place for Krishna's pastimes, and a place where people from all over Ireland can go and get refuge, and they become absorbed in Krishna's pastimes. This is very big preaching, very important preaching, because all around Ireland, you have people in different towns, but you have people in their houses. We're trying to do a lot more preaching at the moment, more namahatas, more places where people will stay at home and actually chant Hare Krishna, so they can come here as for pilgrimage. So they may be able to come here. Maybe the planes will stop at some point and they won't be able to go to Vrindavan. Obviously, if you can go to Vrindavan and go to Mayapur, but Prabhupada also said for a break, to actually become spiritually surcharged and to come back and preach again. So that's the main reasons that we go there. But we find that in today's life anyway, people are so absorbed in their day-to-day living that they're not able to do it, that they're completely distracted. They can't find that space in the day whereby they can actually become absorbed in Krishna's pastimes. And so we had Akandati Prabhu coming over and recently, and he was making this point that we need places like Govinda Dweep, whereby people can come and get actually surcharged in Krishna consciousness, because they need to get away from their busy life. So this is what we're providing. This is expert preaching, where it's maybe a little bit hard to maintain at the moment, but it's something which if we dedicate our lives to, we can make it an incredible place. Just to get back to today's verse, I'm speaking mainly on the first verse. Whereas Narada took it as special mercy of the Lord, who always desires benediction for his devotees. So thinking, I started for the north. And Prabhupada very poignantly in the purport says, confidential devotees of the Lord see in every step a benedictory direction of the Lord. What is considered to be an odd or difficult moment in the mundane sense is accepted as special mercy of the Lord. So none more so that we see that than in Srila Prabhupada's own life. And that amazing book, the Lilamrita and the Lifetime in Preparation, where we hear about Srila Prabhupada's struggles, or apparent struggles, before he came to the West. And specifically it happened around the time when he was in his 50s. He had started to started to find that, he's not interested in his business activities anymore. He got more and more interested in his preaching activities. And every time he would leave his place, he used to travel out and try to sell his chemists or his chemicals or his drugs to the different people in different pharmacies around. And he became less interested in that and much more interested in spreading Krishna consciousness. And it happened to him at one time when he was away. He got a message that his pharmacy had been burgled and he had lost 7,000 rupees, which was a lot of money back then. And Prabhupada just looked and thought, wow, just see, Krishna's taking away all these things from me, Whereas some people would we know during the last recession, so many people committed suicide because their business failed. And I'm sure there'll be plenty more business failures in the next 3 months by the looks of it. So the Prabhupada looked on that as a blessing. And then he went and he tried to set up this amazing league of devotees in a place called Jhansi, and which was a kind of a rural, a little bit more rural. It wasn't one of the major cities, and but somehow or other, through some intrigue, that was blocked. He wasn't able to set up his place from there, and again, Prabhupada was seeing how things were taken away from him. But probably the most the difficult thing, you might say, for Srila Prabhupada happened because of some biscuits. Prabhupada was at home, and he said to his wife, who wasn't very progressive in the sense of his ideas of preaching, about Prabhupada one time said to him, well, do you want tea or do you want me? And his wife jokingly said, I want tea. And so Prabhupada was kind of a little stung by that. But anyway, he didn't, it affected him, but in another sense, it didn't affect him so much. But what did affect him was when his Bhagavatam went missing. And when he came home, he said, where's the Bhagavatam? And his wife said, oh, I needed to get some biscuits for my tea, and I went and I traded them, and so I got some biscuits. Now, I don't know, I think that people's former habit would be maybe to use to dunk rich tea or biscuits into tea and eat them. They were softer that way. So obviously his wife kind of had a real penchant for drinking tea and biscuits. But little did she know that she was to spark an incredible revolution in the greatest pure devotee of our time. So I thought I'd actually read a little bit, and of course there's a particular verse that Prabhupada would speak on at that time. It's a famous verse in the Bhagavatam. It's quoted, Yasyaham manugrinami harisya taddanam shanai tatodanam chajanchasya svajana dukkadukitam. So that's why this verse is particularly poignant in the way Prabhupada is speaking. And he's quoting Krishna. When I feel especially merciful towards someone, I gradually take away all his material possessions. His friends and relatives then reject this poverty-stricken and most wretched fellow. And then Satyarama goes on. He had heard Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati quote the verse, and now he thought of it often. He took it that his present circumstances were controlled by Lord Krishna, who was forcing him into a helpless position, freeing him for preaching Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada says, somehow or other, my intention for preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu increased, and the other side decreased. I was not disinclined, but Krishna forced me. You must give it up. The history is known how it decreased. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Queen Kunti had also prayed, my dear Lord Krishna, your lordship can easily be approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself, and listen with these things, with respectable parentage, great opulence, maybe a nice new car, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling. So Srila Prabhupada said, so in 1950, I retired practically. Not retired, but a little in touch with business. Whatever is going on, then almost it became nil. Whatever was there, all right, you do what you like. So Srila Prabhupada felt like that, and she was ringing Shani there, so I hope it's still being able to be listened. I heard too. And this particular occasion, especially just to go back to the tea and biscuits, Prabhupada said, a wave of absolute resolution passed over him. This is when he heard that his Bhagavatam had been stolen.
Okay, well, I'll try. Okay.
What's that, Shani?
He's on his own phone, yeah.
What's that? Can they not hear?
He's asked me to put my phone over here. I don't know what difference that will make. There we go.
Okay. Maybe I'll just turn that up if it's any different. Sorry about that, folks. But Srila Prabhupada, he felt a wave of absolute resolution had passed over him. You know, it was just funny, just a simple thing, and Prabhupada had completely, he changed everything. And the whole, and as they say, the rest is history. So it is amazing how, again in this purport, Srila Prabhupada speaks. Mundane prosperity is a kind of material fever, and by the grace of the Lord, the temperature of this material fever is gradually diminished, and spiritual health is obtained step by step. There are two other instances in the Bhagavatam where we see this sudden reversal sparks a total, change in somebody's life. What seems like something which is unbearable or so difficult becomes the impetus to actually to really take the spiritual life. And excuse me for reading so much, but I wanted to get it kind of accurate. The first example that I wanted to use was the example of the Avanti Brahman, and it's in the 11th canto. It's chapter 23, I think, and the song of the Avanti Brahmana. So I thought I would read it, just to give you the exact story. This is just the introduction, and showing how the diminishment of the disease, the temperature of material acquisition, that of wealth, and all those things that were described, that once that goes down, then we can start to depend on Krishna. So that is what happens. That's how Krishna. That's the purport of this verse. This chapter tells the story of a mendicant sannyasi from the Avanti country, as an example of how one should tolerate the disturbances and offences created by evil persons. The harsh words of uncouth persons pierce the heart even more severely than arrows. Yet a mendicant Brahmin from the city of Avanti, even while being attacked by wicked men, considered this trouble to be simply the consequence of his own past deeds, and tolerated it with utmost sobriety. Previously, the Brahmin had been an agriculturist and a merchant. He had been extremely greedy, miserly, and prone to anger. As a result, his wife, sons, daughters, relatives, and servants were all deprived of every kind of enjoyment, and gradually came to behave unaffectionately toward him. So in due course of time, it's almost like as day follows night, as night follows day. In due course of time, thieves, family members, and Providence took away the sum total of his wealth. Finding himself without any property and abandoned by everyone, the Brahmana developed a deep sense of renunciation. He considered how the earning and preservation of wealth involved great effort, fear, anxiety, and confusion. I often find that, like devotees, when they when they leave the temple, when they've been in temple for a while, and then they leave to trying to get household, set up the household. This has been our experience. They realize that the massive difficulty it is just to keep body and soul together, and they have to engage in all sorts of activities. And the material world, the fever is getting higher and higher, and you're kind of on the treadwheel, and you're going faster and faster and faster and faster and faster, just to keep up. Normal household life is destroyed. Both people have to go out and work hard all day long. They meet each other as they're changing their, they meet each other on the train or the tram, or modern day life is so difficult. So as devotees, we're trying to give examples how this can happen, how we can live in a way in which we can take time for spiritual life. So this is also in relation to the verse of reducing the material necessities. Because of wealth there arise 15 unwanted items. So listen to these 15. Thievery, violence, lying, deception, lust, anger, pride, feverishness, disagreement, hatred, distrust, conflict, attachment to women, gambling, and intoxication. So this is wealth, this is what happens. When this meditation arose in his heart, the Brahmin could understand that the Supreme Lord Sri Hari had somehow become satisfied with him. He felt that only because the Lord was pleased with him had the apparently unfavorable turn of events in his life occurred. He was grateful that a sense of detachment had arisen in his heart and considered it the factual means for delivering his soul. In this condition, he determined to engage the duration of his life in the worship of Lord Hari, and thus accepted the mendicant order of Tridandi Sannyasi. Subsequently, he would enter different villages to beg charity, but the people would harass and disturb him. But he simply tolerated all this, remaining firm as a mountain. He remained fixed in his chosen spiritual practice and sang a song renowned as the Bhikshu Gita. I'm going to read just the next little part. It's only a paragraph, but again it talks about the mind and how the mind gets obsessed with material wealth and so on. Neither mortal persons, the demigods, the soul, the ruling planets, the reactions of work, nor time are the causes of one's happiness and distress. Rather, the mind alone is their cause, because it is the mind that makes the spirit soul wander in the cycle of material life. The real purpose of all charity, religiosity, and so forth is to bring the mind under control. A person who has already composed his mind in meditation has no need for these other processes. And for a person who is incapable of fixing his mind, they are of no practical use. The false conception of material ego blinds the transcendental soul to material sense objects. The Avanti Brahmana, therefore, became determined to bring himself over the insurmountable ocean of material existence by rendering service to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord Mukunda, with the same perfect faith in the Lord exhibited by the great devotees in the past. So, that is what that whole verse is about, how Krishna, through seemingly unfavorable circumstances, was able to detach a person from the feverishness of the material world and was thereby able to concentrate. And this is what we're meant to exhibit. This is what we're meant to be able to give to the world. We have to do it genuinely. We can't do it because we're supposed to do it. We actually have to be detached. You can't force it. We can't be it because we're meant to be it, but we have to be it. So that's why these times, like as I was mentioning, hearing more in our service, like in Govinda, to bring people to the pastimes of Krishna, so they become absorbed in such things. I know devotees, whenever they do a little play about the pastimes of Krishna, and some of our devotees used to do plays with the kids. I remember my own kids used to do it as well. The whole temple room fills up. It's packed, and it's only a few kids who haven't maybe done that much practice. Well, they've done some practice, but few days or something beforehand, and everyone is absorbed in the pastimes. You know, it's quite incredible, the power of drama. I remember I also wrote a couple of dramas based on the Srimad Bhagavatam. One from the King Chitraketu, Maharaj Rahugana and Jad Bharat, and another one, Am I a Demon, Am I a Vaishnava? It was a adaptation of one of Satsvarupa Maharaj's books on the 7th canto. And we spent a whole month preparing that Am I a Demon, Am I a Vaishnava? And expertly orchestrated by one of our dramatists, Shilavati. And we took a video of it as well. It's been played a couple of times since, but it was one of the most ecstatic times in my life, putting on that play. And I saw how it was crafted and how it got people to think about Krishna's mercifulness and Prahlad Maharaj, the great devotee Prahlad. So we have to, like in previous times, they would read Mahabharata and they would read Ramayana. Prabhupada talks about it in the Bhagavatam, how people would become absorbed in the pastimes of Krishna. So in today's days, you know, there's so many distractions. But somehow or other we have to come together and make that, to draw the mind away from Krishna, to make the pleasure there. The pleasure is there, but because the mad mind is so attracted to material things and the material fever is still there, pratishta, you know, to become famous or whatever, you know, all these little subtle anarthas are there in our not even subtle lust, anger, greed, envy, madness, illusion. They're there, and they're dragging us back into the material world. But Srila Prabhupada wanted the devotees to go far and wide, to give Krishna consciousness to the whole world. So likewise, we can see Ireland like the whole world for ourselves, to give Krishna consciousness. There's 4 or 5 million people, 6.5 million people maybe. You know, there's no dearth of people to give it to, but we just have to concentrate our mind and to see how we can give it, how we can give that to the people in general. And so just finally, the other pastime that which really exemplifies this is, of course, is Pingal the prostitute, and she's also from the 11th canto in the I think it's chapter 8, and she was one night going out to try to attract some man because she needed the money, and she went out and she sort of stayed outside her house and tried to attract people as they were going by, different men. And she saw this man coming. Oh, he looks like a person who should have enough money. He's sure he would love to enjoy with me. Oh no, he's gone. No, he's left. Oh no, here's somebody else. And she started thinking about all the men that were going by, and she was trying to attract them, and so she could enjoy and have sex with that person, and so she would get some money and sex, so money and enjoyment. So they were both interlinked. So she wanted those two things, and but gradually as the night wore on, nobody was stopping. She started to get really, really an anxiety because she was desperate for money, and she wanted somebody to stop, but it passed midnight and then nobody came. And so she was left on her own. She got this terrible sense of depression. But then after the depression suddenly started to grow in her heart, from the detachment from those things, a whole sense of trying to become detached, and a sense of love of God started to appear in her heart. And then she realized that she was just searching after mundane men of this world, you know, who couldn't really give her any satisfaction. But the only person that could give her this satisfaction was the supreme person who's in her heart, who's there, the closest person to her, who is her most dear friend, the person who can fulfill all her desires. And she suddenly, when these attractions were taken away from her, forcibly taken away, and she was in a desperate position, then she started to take shelter of Krishna within. And then suddenly she started to feel this overwhelming glow of happiness and satisfaction. And then she realized how powerful Krishna is. And this was a great sense of relief overtook her. And then, of course, you know, we got to see that we're in that position. We're like the prostitute. We're looking for some material enjoyment in this world. We're looking for some money, you know, which would give us fame, opulence, you know, all these different things. We're like that. We're like that prostitute. Don't don't try to undermine Pingal as though she's one of the gurus actually. Maharaj Yadu was explaining this. This was the Avaduta Brahma was explaining this to Maharaj Yadu. Krishna, this is in the 11th canto where Krishna is explaining these stories to Uddhava, or the Uddhava Gita. And so it's very much in our life. We're actually like that. That's us. We have this material attraction. We want money. We want enjoyment. So we should do it willingly. We should willingly take our minds away from these things and absorb ourselves in Krishna, who's our only friend, who's the only place where we'll get any real satisfaction and any real bliss. And Krishna then, the most merciful Lord, will appear to us even in the most greatest difficulty, and especially at the time when we're about to leave our body. Krishna will be there for us at that point. Okay, I'll just stop at that point. Sorry for going on a little bit, but I just wanted to get through those things. I don't know if there's any comments or any questions. Shani's going to say that to me. There isn't anyway, but it's gone on for quite a while. I hope the reception was okay. I think Shirupa mentioned the last time sometimes the picture goes away and so on.
Not from my side though.
But I think it's maybe the connection there. So maybe Krishna wants to take away the internet connection so we can be, absorb ourselves in the pastimes of Krishna on there on the island and nothing else. We won't be disturbed by anybody. No, but we can use these things obviously to spread Krishna consciousness. So remember, Govinda Dweep, do everything we can to make that place a beautiful place of Krishna's pastimes. And so that should be our goal. Don't get distracted or diverted into anything else. It's not worth it. If we have some little difficulties or some problems, what problems do we have in this lifetime? Many millions of lifetimes have we had. So don't let anything, whatever we do, don't let anything distract us from our service to Krishna. If somebody says something to us or there's some problem or difficulty, we have to exhibit the Brahman, the Avanti Brahman. You just have to tolerate it. So what? Okay, so what? It's water off a duck's back. We have to become that detached and just concentrate on serving Krishna. And then Srila Prabhupada will be there with open arms to greet us. He'll be so happy with us that we've done everything that we possibly could, to spread the glories of Krishna consciousness, Lord Chaitanya's movement, his pastimes in Ireland or in the world. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna. Jai.